Hey guys, welcome back. As always, my name is Leyzar, and today we're going to be talking about two of the more common questions I see in builds and guides, especially from a more newer player's perspective. First of all, why are you going over 100% critical chance? Isn't that a waste, since your critical chance is already guaranteed at 100%? And second of all, why do we even bother with headshots in Warframe anyway? Two very fantastic questions, and I can answer both of those with the following: more damage. But if that's not enough for you, stick around for the full and detailed explanation. First of all, when it comes to critical chance and critical damage in Warframe, you gotta understand the following. There is an infinite number of tiers of crit in Warframe. They start off at 1% and they go all the way up to 100% for tier 1. Tier 2 crits will go from 101% all the way to 200%. Tier 3 will go from 201 to 300% critical chance, and so on. The first 3 tier crits are colored differently. The first one is yellow, the second one is orange, and the third one is red. And after red, they ran out of colors, I guess, because tier 4, 5, 6, and so on are also red. There's some misinformation running around that purple damage is actually a special tier of crits. This is false. That is damage on overshield. Once again, purple damage on overshields. Now take a look at this weapon right here. You got a base critical chance of 24% and a critical multiplier of 3.0. These two are heavily interlinked, and they both are important in the sense that critical chance without critical damage is pointless, and vice versa. Essentially, if you want to get some nice critical stats out of the weapon, you need both of the multipliers to be at a decent level. Now normally, these two multipliers are enhanced by the following. Look, 120% more critical chance. That's simple, right? You simply add 120% to the base 24%. Nothing easier than that, and of course for critical damage the same applies as before. Look, 110%, and my multiplier goes to 6.3. Now 52.8% critical chance means that every single damage instance that you generate on a target will have a critical chance of 52.8%. Beautiful, fantastic. But what happens when you go over 100%? I got 256.5% critical chance. So let's take a look how the Dread handles with something like this. With 256 point whatever it was, essentially you got guaranteed tier 2 crits. Absolutely beautiful. It is vital on a critical weapon to normally go for headshots, and I'll explain that just a tad later. But in the meantime, the light show. Take a look at that red damage. Beautiful. Look at that high red damage, but that time I got an orange strike. Orange strike once again. Orange tier 2, red tier 3. Now, you should have instances when from the same shot you will be generating both red and orange damage. Take a look on this corrupted heavy gun level 165. That is because of multi-shot. I had some red damage instances, I had some orange damage instances. Some arrows went to tier 2, some arrows went to tier 3. Again, this is because of multi-shot. So what is my chance to go red and what is my chance to go orange? Because on this weapon, right now I got a 256.5% critical chance. Like we said earlier, orange is guaranteed. So at the very least, all your shots will be orange. And each and every single damage instance on the target has a 56.5% chance of going to the next level of crit tier to red, tier 3 in this case. Now, it's a bit much to ask your average everyday player to remember multipliers and equations and when do they apply and when do they not apply and all whatnot, especially when you just want to hop into an action game such as Warframe and have a bit of fun by shooting stuff. So all you gotta know is higher crit tier means a higher multiplier, means more damage, yay. Now, some of you say there are diminishing returns in Warframe. That is false. There is no diminishing returns in Warframe. Math has diminishing returns in the sense that the more you add of the same multiplier, it doesn't matter which, the less you get out of it. It's as simple as that. Which is why the most powerful weapons in Warframe are the ones that can access most, if not all, the damage multipliers that the game has to offer. So do bear that one in mind. Oh, and if you're curious, what are the top 10 primary weapons in Warframe? Come on, I know you're curious. Look at the cards right now. That said though, I'm also aware that there's a lot of you guys which are a bit more mathematically inclined and simply want to know how everything works. You want to calculate your builds and all whatnot, which is what I usually do, so you don't have to. You can head on over to the wiki to see the equations exactly. If you want to calculate your critical tier multiplier, it's pretty simple. It's 1 plus crit tier times the modded crit multi minus 1. Again, you can find all this information over on the wiki as well. Beautiful, fantastic, but that doesn't explain a couple of things. First of all, fine, okay, I want to go to a higher critical chance tier. But what is the point of the critical multiplier? Is this the critical multiplier? This is the crit tier multiplier. The critical damage multiplier is different. To put it pretty straight, critical hit damage is multiplied by this value. I'm talking about your critical multiplier that you see on your screen right now. That's 4.4, which is modded because of Vital Sense. The added damage is doubled for orange critical hits and triple for red, and quadrupled for tier 4, and 5 times for the next one, and so on and so forth. You get how that one works. So having a high critical multiplier is vital to a critical weapon, and as I stated before, critical chance without critical damage doesn't really work, and vice versa. So do bear that one in mind. And if you want to know how modded critical multiplier is calculated, nothing simpler. You take the base, which in my case on the Dread is the 2.0, and you multiply it by 1 plus all the bonuses you have. How many bonuses do I have? Well, I just have one, I believe. Nothing on the Riven. Yes, the only critical damage bonus I got is Vital Sense with 120%, which is why my critical multiplier is at 4.4. And here's the equation over on the wiki if you care for such things. And finally, now that we understand critical chance and critical damage and how do they apply, yes, let's talk about headshot damage, shall we? Why do we go for headshots always or almost always, and especially on critical weapons? Like most shooter-based games, Warframe has location-based damage. Pretty simple, cut and dry. Yes, we're gonna be calling this multiplier the location multiplier. If you go for a headshot in Warframe, normally, not all the time, we're gonna be talking about that just a tad later, you get a 2.0x multiplier, a location multiplier. Pretty simple, cut and dry, so you should always go for a headshot. But here's when things get really fuzzy and complicated. If it's a critical, regardless of the tier, then it receives an additional damage bonus of 2.0x, but it doesn't go from 2.0x location multiplier to 4.0x location multiplier. This multiplier is on top of the location multiplier and the crit multiplier. So the equation looks like this. For the most part, is the headshot multi times 1 plus the crit tier multiplied by 2 times modded crit multi minus 1. Did I lose you? Yeah, I'm sorry about that. This is just how the equation works. You don't really need to remember this. All you gotta remember is that the additional damage that would be generated by a crit, so a critical instance on a headshot, is on top of the location multiplier and the crit multiplier. Fantastic, right? So it generates absolutely huge numbers. Huge multipliers, to be more correct. Now let's take a more practical example. The Dread, which I showcased earlier. 256.5 critical chance, 4.4x critical multiplier. I know I got guaranteed orange, so if you are to run the math for the orange crits, that is the tier 2 crits, you're gonna come up with a headshot crit tier multi of 33.2. That is absolutely bloody sky high, which is why the Dread hurts so much when it comes to headshots. Absolutely bloody fantastic. You see, my friends, these sky high multipliers and the way they are calculated and they stack is the reason why you want to go for a headshot all the time, especially important on critical weapons because of the added 2.0 on top of the location multiplier and the critical multiplier. So go for headshots on critical weapons. You know what? Go for headshots in general because you're still going to be getting the location based damage increase, the usual 2.0x. But there are some exceptions. For example, some weapons had their headshot multiplier stripped from them because they were too powerful. Such sad. For example, one of my favorite weapons in the game, the Arca Plasmor and the Tenant Arca Plasmor. But that weapon doesn't care about the headshot multiplier at all. It still rakes through everything. Link in the cards right now for a full and detailed guide on it. Now for a second, let's go back to location-based damage because not all targets are created equal. You're not supposed to go for a headshot all the time. For example, let's talk about the Moa from the Corpus. Do they have a head? Well, not exactly. They have a little cassette under their belt, like under the belly region. The wiki calls it a fanny pack. So essentially what you want to do is shoot a Moa in its fanny pack. That fanny pack. That location takes 3.0x damage. It doesn't do anything for criticals, right? So it doesn't matter if your damage instance on it is a critical or not, it will always be taking 3.0x damage. That is the location base multiplier that applies to the Moa. Corpus humanoid targets are also a bit of an exception as they don't take head crits. Yeah, essentially you're just gonna be getting the standard 2.0 location based headshot multiplier even if their helmets are off. Jordas Golem is another good example over on the wiki. Has 1.0 multiplier for his engines but still receives quadruple damage if critical hit. So you see, it doesn't really always apply, but in the very vast majority of cases, which is why, my friends, you should go for headshots, which is why it is important to mod your weapons for critical chance and critical damage when possible. And you cannot mod them if you can still get the multiplier. Does that make any sorts of sense? There will be effects from your Warframes, from your companions, that can bypass modding altogether. For example, most critical chance and critical damage effects are pretty simple, cut and dry. It's a multiplication of the base, right? Like you saw in the case of the Dread. 256, and this comes from 120% point strike and my Dread Critican, which adds another 263%. But there are effects that simply add to your critical chance regardless of your base. These are bonus additive after effects, such as Arcane Avenger, for example. Let's have a quick look at it. You can get it from your Warframe. Avenger reads as following: you get 45% critical chance for 12 seconds. It's a non-damaged effect with a 21% chance. This simply stacks on top of what you already have, so your weapon can have 0% critical chance. You're still gonna be able to crit with it if you have the bonus from Avenger or the Cat's Eye buff or Harrow's Covenant buff. So there are effects such as this. This is how we make broken weapons. Most of the time, that is. And the last special case or oddball that you should be aware of is the Blood Rush mod and the Gladiator set bonus. Now these are unique because they scale off the melee combo, stacking additively with other critical chance mods. So do bear that one in mind. And I do believe, my friends, that's everything I wanted to cover. Let me know if you got any questions in the comment section down below. If I can't get to them, we have a fantastic community which will probably help you out. As always, my name has been Leyzar. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!